What is your outlook about relationships?
They're beautiful
Okay.
if done the right way. There's actually a definition that I love, which says that two people who are capable of being without each other choose to be with one another. That is love, and that is a good relationship. So as long as a relationship is not for you to complete yourself with the other person, as long as it's not that, it's great. But when we are always seeking completion through another, then it can become complicated, and then it can become problematic, and unfortunately that's 99% of all relationships.
Do you think that's coming from a place because they are incapable of completing themselves?
Yeah, largely.
And working on completing themselves is a lot more effort compared to using somebody else to complete you.
Yes,
What is the purpose of life?
I think it would be different for everybody.
Mm.
I can only share what I believe is the purpose of life from my perspective. It is about recognizing what is true and becoming the truth.
What is your truth?
There is no one way to say what is my truth.
Mm.
All I can say is that there is always an inner voice which tells you what is right
Mm.
and what is the honest way to be. And as long as I keep listening to that voice and walking that path,
Mm.
I will eventually reach my truth.
Do you believe in multiple lifetimes?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
If that is the case, do you feel the work that you're doing right now, not with respect to cinema, not with respect to acting, the inner work that you've been doing right now, you've been doing it for enough number of lifetimes for you to be where you are right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'll tell you the first time one of the reasons, I told you at the age of 19, something just switched. And when that switched, many changes happened, which a 19-year-old can't have.
Mm.
So I did realize that this is not Atul.
Mm.
This is something beyond Atul.
Mm.
Whatever is happening to me is beyond this lifetime.
Mm.
So that was my first recognition of the fact that probably there are other lifetimes also. And once when I was in my mid-20s, I did a past life regression therapy. Only once I've done it. And it was actually quite strong. And I resonated with that a lot, with whatever I saw, that it had to be true.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would not have felt so much with that experience. So that's how I believe in this, because of few experiences like this.
So when you say recognition of, previously also you mentioned recognition of the ego, right? So when I try to understand recognition, it's coming from two places. One is an intellectual understanding of what is happening. The second thing is an experiential understanding of what is happening. What do you mean by recognition? That I have this, I have these limitations, I'm recognizing.
Awareness.
Okay.
I mean awareness when I'm saying recognizing that. To be aware that all this is happening to you.
It's just not a mental awareness, like you know it.
So awareness is not mental. Awareness is being present with your entire being. Whereas mental is just mind. So awareness is deeper than thinking and analyzing and all of those things, because all of those things only involve the mind, whereas awareness involves the being.
And the mind cannot understand awareness.
No, it can't grasp.
Okay. So, the next question is about choice and surrendering. So when I did the podcast with Satyakam, he spoke something very profound, which changed my perspective about choice and surrendering. And I want to ask your perception about the same thing. He said, Gayatri, when you ask the universe for something, the universe will give it to you. But what most people are not okay with is whatever choice you make, whatever it gives you, it comes with the consequences. But when you surrender and tell the universe, you do whatever you want, all that I want and beg for is my connection with you. So I want to establish this connection. You do whatever you want. So you typically not asking, I want this, I want this. So in the second case, you have a lot of freedom. Because no consequences, you've not asked for something. All that you need is a beautiful feeling that you have because of the connection. But in the first case, you're actually bound to the consequences of it. What is your opinion on this?
Exact same. And to be very honest, I say the same thing. That for me, like another way of looking, because surrender often is a word that is very misunderstood. especially with the Western connotation of it. Surrender is not about being lazy, complacent, or giving up, or any of those things. Surrender is just letting go of the illusion of the control that you thought you had.
Okay.
Because we all feel we have control and we drive our lives, especially people who are very ambitious, people who live with the quest of perfection. All of these people really struggle with surrender. But it's the easiest thing to do and the most effective thing to do, if you ask me. Because again, like I said, we can either function from the mind or we can function from this true self, the consciousness. And surrender is what allows us to function from that consciousness. Whereas the lack of that surrender will always want the mind to be in control. So it's only when we try it do we understand what it can do for us. I mean, I often say कि अभी तक तुमने इतना सोचा कि लाइफ में सब हो जाए, देख लिया, did it work for you? Are you happy, or do you want to try something else? So, I mean, I say to myself also, not to sound like I don't have that issue. So when I say it, I'm saying it to myself also that I've tried everything. So let's try surrender also once. It's really beautiful. There's a life that has been given to us. We have to reach somewhere in that life. We don't know what is good for us. None of us knows what is good for us. I mean, if I ask you, just go 15 years back, the choices you were making, the decisions you were making, the kind of person you were, if you were that person today, or when you look back at that person, don't you see how immature sometimes you were and how stupid you were and how you knew, but actually you didn't know.
Exactly.
But at that time, we thought we knew everything. If you go and ask that 15-year back Gayatri, do you think you know? You'll be like, yeah, I know. And if I ask myself also, do you know? I'll be like, yeah, I know. But we don't know. We don't know anything. We just want to have the illusion that we know. But we actually don't know. And what surrender allows us is to flow with where the universe wants to take us. And the universe knows better than us.
Do you think a lot of people have challenge in believing that the universe has a better path for us than the path that we have for us?
Yeah, of course. It's very difficult. It's not easy to surrender. It's very tough to surrender.
Okay.
Surrender is always directly correlated. The lack of surrender is always directly correlated to how many deep identifications we have outside of ourselves. There's a direct correlation between these two. That's why one of the things we always talk about is reduce your identities and reduce your attachments. Because all of misery is in identities and attachments. You take anybody on this planet, anybody who's miserable, and most of the times, 99% of the times, their misery is directly connected to the identity or the attachment they have in something outside of them. For example, a lot of my 30s has been about me being miserable. Okay. And it is because I wanted my film to be made and it was just not happening. Like from the day I made my first short film till the day my first show released, it's a 17-year journey. From directing the first short film to release of the first show, 17 years gap. Now, those 17 years are very hard because that's what you want the most. So because what I wanted the most had my identity in it, and it was not happening, 17 years were miserable. And now that I'm like, I don't have my identity in filmmaking, I probably don't even want to make films, and I'm very relaxed right now. If now I ever get to make something, I probably will do it more joyfully also. I'll probably make something better than the last thing also.
Okay.
But that misery has been there because of that identity. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a filmmaker. Because of that identity. That's why that misery was there. So all of misery in life is because of resistance to something. And all of joy in life is the acceptance of your resistance.
When you say resistance to something, is it resistance to what is happening in the now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Resistance to what is.
What is. I think Eckhart beautifully says this. It is insanity for human beings to actually resist what is happening in the now. Like it is in the now. I mean, but if you take majority of the population, they kind of are not okay with what is happening in the now. The need for me to be somewhere else at this point rather than for me to be in this moment is because of the illusion that I believe that somewhere else will give me more happiness than the now.
Yeah.
But there is nowhere else to be but to be in the now.
So, yes, absolutely. And another perspective I want to add to this, we all think happiness is an emotion. It's not. It is a choice.
Okay.
We think when something will happen, will make us happy.
Yeah.
No, it's because you choose to be happy in something is what will make you happy. So that choice can be made even now, in this moment. It's something very tough to understand.
Yes, I get
But
it.
actually, once you understand it, it's the simplest thing.
And also, when you place your happiness in something else in the future, when you actually get that, you're placing your happiness in something else in the future.
Because you're choosing to stay miserable, like I did for 17 years.
Okay.
You're choosing to stay miserable, thinking when that happens, you will be happy.
Right.
So choose to be happy. You can be. If I had not put my identity in filmmaking for all those years, I could have been happier. I could have been more joyful. I could have been more present with the people around me. I could have lived life a little bit more and not just reduced myself to one aspect of my life.
But do you think it was also a part of your soul's plan?
100%.
Yeah.
Everything is.
Going through misery is also?
Without that, nothing's going to work out. Nothing's going to happen.
You think a level of suffering is important for awakening to happen?
Difficult times and problems are inevitable, but suffering is optional.